Oh, that felt good. That felt really
Jason,
good.
it's just I don't know if I can. I've done some in Australia at the middle of the morning, just like the crack of dawn, just stupid hours. What are you doing right now? Why? How stupid is it?
It's reasonably stupid. I feel like the more stupid episode we had was doing the one in Saudi Arabia before going on the shuttle at like 3:30 in the morning after the final. I think that one was stupider, more stupid.
Really? What's the time for you right now?
6 a.m. I woke up at
Oh, it's not that
5:45.
bad.
No, it's
That's
not
not that
terrible.
bad.
Look, I've
Oh, okay.
casted I've casted finals on less sleep than this. I can handle a podcast.
It's actually pretty reasonable. So you're going to go do a day of work for Blast and then still have sunlight.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll see. MR12 certainly helps that factor. Yeah, the game started in what I think 3 hours ish is when I
Yeah, three
got
hours,
to the ship.
20 minutes.
Yeah, and then three best of threes, rolling schedule of MR12.
Love those.
Yeah, we do love those a lot. And some of these games should be a little bit of a blowout if I can risk so much to say.
I think it's
You know?
okay for you to say that.
Yeah.
I think that's not a problem. So what do you got? Cloud9 Rare Atom,
Yeah.
Heroic NIP, and then Simple playing against Meta's Port
Yes.
with the
So
Falcons.
I feel like that last one and that first one could be reasonably quick. Probably the second one as well. Although
Okay.
you never know. You never know because it's the NIP youngsters who are stepping in, the trio that's been moved up from the academy team. And I find it absolutely fucking hilarious that the NIP main squad lost to Amcol at the RMR, and then the NIP youngster squad beat them in a best of three like a week and a half later.
But you know what, Jason?
What's that?
Rez was on both teams, so he wasn't the problem. I was
True.
wrong. Everyone else was right. What did I want to say? Wait, you're casting all three games?
He's
No,
not casting.
I'm hosting.
You're hosting.
The return of Jason Moses O'Toole, the host.
Hasn't
He's
been
done
seen
it.
Jack of all trades is
Yeah.
back at it.
ESL Pro League Season 5 throwback.
Yeah, that was a good 7 years
Season
ago.
5.
I was with him. I think it was you and me, wasn't it? Dallas Finals. Oh yeah, you have done a bit of this, that, and everything. You know what?
Oh yeah, we were there. Was that the one, Chad, where we had the 2v2 and you were ratting it out in canals?
That may have been the case, but
No,
the only
that
thing
was
I
the
remember is the victory. It doesn't matter how you get to the W, just as long as you get there.
I just also want to say, Jason, I feel with you. I'm also in a different time zone compared to Chad, so
What time
we're
zone are you
together,
in?
brother.
Yeah, where are you? Are you on vacation?
Yeah, I'm 1 hour behind. I'm in Spain.
Wow, it's 10 past 11 for you.
Yes.
Wow, I can't believe you managed to wake up at this time.
I had to roll out of bed at like 9:30, get breakfast, and
Do
sit
you have a
on
nice
the...
view at least while you're doing this?
Bro, I have an amazing view. I have to send it in the Discord later on.
Where
I feel like,
where would you go?
Canary Islands.
Nice.
Ah,
Yeah, it's like
Okay.
one of those places where the weather is more or less the same the whole year. So
what is the temperature?
it's like 20 degrees,
Oh.
a little bit more.
I was just
maybe.
having this conversation with Rush and Aaron. Like Aaron's in Denmark, Rush is in Germany. He said like today's like 18 or whatever. In Malta, it's almost like 18 every day, which is fucking brilliant. So I imagine the where you are is very similar.
Yeah, I think
Canary
we're both the
Islands.
same distance from the body of water, all
Yeah,
three of
well,
us.
Roll down the hill, and we're there.
Jason, it's probably snowing where he's at.
Is it snowing?
It's supposed to snow later this week, but the weather's been at like 65, 70 in America.
Yeah, no one knows what that means.
I think it's about 18-ish.
When the numbers get that high, that's normally someone's age.
It's like 1.8. It's like multiply it by 1.8, add 32 is how you get to Fahrenheit. So
Yeah, sick one,
All
Jason.
right. Yeah,
That's all I
great.
got. That's all I got.
1.8. I always have that at the back of my head. What's
Right.
1.8 something?
I
Do
don't
something.
fucking
I
algebra.
just make a little bit of a guess. This
Ah.
sounds great. Spanish archipelago off the coast of northwestern Africa, rugged
Archipelago?
volcanic isles. Archipelago?
Archipelago.
I like archipelago.
Archipelago.
It sounds so
Yeah,
much.
it's very
it sounds
American.
so
Jason
much more
Moses
sophisticated.
O'Toole.
Oh my god.
You would love it here. There's shit to explore, like do stuff, and also just chill. It's great. I don't regret it one bit.
Oh,
You
this
guys sound like
is-
you're
this
having
is
good times.
Tenerife. This is Tenerife.
Yes, that's where I am.
Okay, cool. Nice.
Well, I have a leaky ceiling,
That-
and I should say, and I still have a leaky ceiling. I should preface it that way. I've had a leaky ceiling ever since I moved into this place. It's fucking sick.
Have you messaged the guy who does
Pretty
that?
I'm sure
often
he
about
hasn't. I'm sure he
Nah,
hasn't.
I just don't
He
say
just
anything. Just like,
complains.
nah.
He just complains about it to us, and
Just go on the podcast. No, so the landlord, he's a pretty stand up guy. Like anytime I have an issue, like I had an issue with my hot water unit a couple of months ago, and he came over, and he's definitely not like a handy type of guy, but he understood the unit because it's his building. But he lives above me, so he came down and he actually fixed it. I was like, holy shit, he fucking did it. So I messaged him the other day. I'm having some issues with where is he? I was having some issues. Oh yeah, I had some cleaners come in. Must be nice. And they were cleaning on the balconies, and they snapped the handles on one of the balcony doors. So I messaged the landlord and I was like, "Yo, this happened. I want to get it fixed. Like, it's my fault. Like, well, it's really the cleaner's fault, but the onus is on me." And I was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. I'll just get a company in to replace it. It's all good." And I'm like, "Oh, that's fucking sick." And then I walked into my other room, one of the spare bedrooms I have, and there's just fucking water all over the floor and the cupboard's completely fucking drenched. So I sent him a video and he's just replied with, "Looks like I'll have to redo the terrace this summer." And I'm like, for fuck's sake, man. Like, so I've just put a bucket in there, and just every time, because it rains a little bit in the morning, so that's about it. So that's the biggest issue I have. I did my Chinese visa this morning. I thought it was going to be a real fuck about. So that's done. That's done for Chengdu. But
less of a fuck about than you thought.
No, more of a fuck about with this fucking visa agent that the ESL have gotten for us. Mate, I've done more Chinese visas in my life than I reckon this fucking visa agent has. I could have done this shit in my sleep. I don't even know what he did for me other than he essentially just copied my homework. I had to give them all the information, fill out all the documents, and then all he does is go into the fucking website and put the info in. Why didn't I just do it myself? Why ESL paying some fucking guy probably hundreds? I've done a visa agency before, actually, in the UK. Hundreds of bucks to make this happen. I could have done it myself. I remember when I did the...
Tell him next time, be like, just pay me the fee. Pay me the fee that you're paying this guy, and I'll just do it all myself.
One thing I learned, though, and I assume this would be the same for other people in similar scenarios, but last time I applied for it, I was actually in the UK because we were doing like Pro League from Leicester. So this was pre-pandemic. And that was a fucking process, mate. I ended up getting like a Uber driver to take me down from Leicester to London. If anybody's in the UK, they'll know just how much of a fucking cost that was of an Uber. Anyway, I charged that to ESL as well, don't you worry. But the biggest qualm that I faced here was I went in and I had asked for multiple entry. Now I don't know if I will do the major in the end of the year in Shanghai, but I was trying to prepare for it if that was the case. So the visa would already be done. I was like, yeah, if I can get like a year visa with multi-entry, I won't have to go through this whole process again. But I went in and the bloke was like, "Oh, you can only have one entry because even though you're a Maltese resident, your citizenship is British, and if you want multiple entries, you have to apply for that in the UK." So I was like, "Fuck."
Yeah, dude, they did that to me. I remember when I got my Chinese visa. I tried to apply in San Francisco, and they wouldn't let me apply. And I waited in line for like 2 hours, and they told me that I had to apply to the one in Chicago because it's one I'm closest to my home address. And I was like, well, I can't. I can only apply here because I'm on a little bit of a time situation. And, you know, they didn't give a fuck. So,
yeah. Well, you could just be like Yanko and not need a visa.
Yeah.
Must be fucking
God
nice.
bless the old commie buddies from back in the day. You know, still in good relations. Attaboy.
It is like one of 3 countries that Yanko doesn't need to get a visa for. So he can.
I don't need a visa for Brazil, which has been nice. With the British passport.
Yeah, me neither. Brazil, but Jason needs it.
Yeah,
because Brazil works just on like reciprocity. If you require a visa for Brazilians, they'll require it for you as well.
Yeah.
Kind of badass.
Yeah, I like it. It's like, yeah, fuck you, man. I like
way
it.
To stand up to the man.
Yeah.
Way to go, Brazilians.
So leaky roof and visas. What else have I got going on? I was just trying to think of something. I've twinged my my back at the moment. So I woke up in the middle of the night, couldn't like turn my neck and stuff. So right now I'm sitting here with this like mechanical massager thing just like digging into my shoulder blade. So if there's any residual sound that gets picked up through my microphone, I apologize to all the listeners at home, but I'm in a fair amount of pain and discomfort. So
you're doing the full body turn?
I'm in extreme pain, but I will work through this. The podcast must not suffer.
It's like, well, I don't know what I'd do anyway. I don't want to just lay on the couch. So this is like, I just sit here and I lean my back into this fucking thing and hopefully melt away the pain. I'm going to go see Dune 2 tomorrow.
Oh, I am too.
Oh, it's getting like rave reviews.
Yeah.
You're going on Friday, you say, Jason?
Yeah, Friday.
What do you do with the baby? You get a babysitter, or do you not go with Jane? You just leave Jane at home or in the car park or something?
I'm just going to go alone. Leave them all at home. No, we're getting grandma's.
Live round the windows down a bit, Yanko. You know, crack the windows a bit.
Yeah, leave her with some, food and water, bread, probably.
Yeah.
Just
Put a
bread
sign on the
and
window,
water.
say, I'll be back in 2 hours.
It's only like a 2.5 hour movie, so it shouldn't be that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It's not hot outside. It should be fine.
It's not
That'll
like
be
you're abandoning your
fine.
family or anything.
It is getting good reviews. I think I don't want to be one of those people that goes in and I'm like, oh yeah, but in the book. So I'm gonna stay away because I haven't read a lot of books. I'm a bit of an idiot, so I'll stay away from
Did you
referencing
read this book? If you're not
Yes.
much of a reader, this is you. Of all the books to read, you went for the Dune trilogy.
But there's more than that. I think I'm up to the 6th novel now.
Okay.
Which one have I did June novel series. I just want to make sure I have them right here.
See, I consider myself a reader, and I won't even touch the Dune books.
Yeah, but I talked to Duncan about this years ago, and
Yeah,
he
loved
said
it.
it was good. So I was like, all right, well, I'll do it.
I'm sure it's good, but it's one of those series where everyone I've talked to that's read it, even Duncan, has been like, the first book is good, but it's not really good until you read the second book, and then like the first book gets a lot better than it comes off the. I can't do that.
I think, but I feel you, Chad. I had the same problem, where I'm like, I'm not a reader. And then every time I pick up, but the problem was like, I'm picking up shit, like Thinking Fast and Slow, all these like really good books, but they're kind of, on, I don't know, either a bit harder to read or about like important topics. I don't know. And then now for this trip, I just at the airport, I just picked up a fucking Jack Reacher book. And
Jack
it had
Reacher?
400, yes, like because it's a novel series as well, that they made the movie from.
Yeah.
With Tom Cruise, and there's like a dozen of them. I don't know. So I just like picked one that was up there. It had 450 pages. I read it in 2 days because it's like
Damn.
easy to read. It's just, a novel or fiction or whatever the fuck, and it's like more interesting that way. So I guess you maybe just ease your way with some, books like that.
So one of the biggest issues with reading Dune was the terminology. Like I had a hard, like you're reading science fiction terms that this guy, that old Frankie Herbs had invented himself. So you're like, what the fuck is this? And it's like, when a lot of people read Harry Potter in the beginning and they didn't know how to pronounce Hermione, right? And everyone had their own like version of it until obviously the movies and stuff started coming out and people like knew how it was pronounced because of the movies. Kind of the same thing with Dune. I went through and then I watched the first movie. I was like, oh, is that how that's meant to be? Like the Bene Gesserit, I think I was calling them like that, like something. I was definitely saying something different in my head as I was reading through it every time. But what I'm about to do here, I'm having a look. I just finished Heretics of Dune, so I've read 5 of the 6th. I got to read Chapter House Dune as the last one, and then it goes on to his son and other authors who have done like a shitload more. I'm not going to read that. That stuff doesn't have as good reviews. I think they fucked it up.
Okay.
As they do. The second generation or the third generation is the one that fucks it all up usually.
Which is us right now.
The third generation, not the second.
Third. I don't know what we're the third generation of, but we're definitely.
I'm the first generation. It's like the father like builds up some shit. Maybe the son expands it a little bit or like maintains it, and the grandson fucks it all up, pisses it all away.
That's probably me with the plumbing in my family. So my dad's dad was a plumber. Then my dad was a plumber. Then I was a plumber, and I went, nah, fuck this. And I did video.
I think you're doing okay for yourself, though.
Yeah, it worked out all right.
I think you'll end up being the grandpa in this story.
Okay, so I need to have kids who have something to do with video games. Counter-Strike, I guess. We won't just go video games. We'll go Counter-Strike specifically.
Just adopt a kid from Siberia.
I'll adopt
That's
Donk.
the way to go these days.
The next donk.
Yeah, just adopt Donk. Someone's got to do it. Oh, all right. Well, today, Yanko, when we were talking in our chat, it seemed like you were awfully fired up about, well, I don't know if you were fired, maybe fired up's the wrong term. Ready to go? Things to say?
I was a little bit fired up. I'm not going to lie. I felt like there was a lot of topics from this RMR or like from the NA RMR or like the two ones like we did an episode after the Europe ones were over and before Asia started. But I think obviously, let's just dive right into it. The whole NA situation and then Liquid
NA situation.
Well, I mean, just first of all, it goes without saying, you have to be a fucking idiot to use that format to get 5 teams to qualify. And the most hilarious thing is that was the format used last time, and it just got used again Like that like the players need to figure some shit out for themselves, whether you want to call it a players association or something, but they need to have a fucking voice so this shit doesn't happen. Like, it doesn't matter that all these players will come out post games and say, oh yeah, well, the format is flawed. Even the teams that go through, will say so, but I think it's just crazy. That just tells you how brainwashed we are with the Swiss system. Like, it's actually ridiculous when it even doesn't work for the number of spots that we need, we still end up using it. I mean, it's also fucking blasphemy that in a system where you can lose 2 games and be eliminated, one of them is a best of 1 in MR12 in today's day and age. Is like, why is that why don't you just make it best of 3? It's not gonna take that much longer, especially if you just wanted to use like 2 streams on the last day as well. I think that pretty much covers the extra time you need to play the best of 1s, or just fucking, I don't know, like for Europe, you had so many days and so much time, even with the last chance qualifier, right? Like, you can do justice to these other regions, especially when there's so much on the fucking line with making the major with the sticker money.
Yeah, the seeding was dog shit as well,
whatnot.
right? Like, the whole idea of using this Valve ranking, one of the things is that they have to actually update the ranking. Otherwise,
yes, which shouldn't be so fucking difficult.
Because I was talking last night to HDV Confirmed, and Striker was like, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate here, and I'm asking the question, like, why would they have not updated it? And everyone's just sitting there just like blankly staring, like, yeah, why would they? Like, what reason other than them forgetting about it or being lazy would they have not chosen to update it? Like, I can't think of it. So that's probably going to have to be a question. But this is the problem. We only start talking about these things again when they become a big issue. But we already knew they were a big issue because, as you said, Yanko was used last time round, and we discussed it last time round. And maybe the ramifications weren't as great as either Liquid or Complexity, and obviously Liquid missing out on the major. But the way that they played against the better teams there, that was some of the worst possible way it could have worked out, but obviously based off where like Liquid was seeded. Same thing with Falcons. I'm not saying Falcons should have made it through. I'm just saying they're a team who should have been seeded higher, and where they were seeded, it just it meant that we had a lot of these matchups going head to head that probably shouldn't. And I think that Swiss is fine for trying to find when we have the correct amount of teams, right? For the European side of things, you got the right amount of teams, and we're sifting and we're looking for gold, and we're making sure we have like the best results going through. But it still has to have good seeding. And then on the side of things for North America, I agree. I think the format for that just fucking dog shit. You look at the Asian one, we're looking for 2 teams to go through, and the way that's done, I think was great. I think that was fine. I would even change it so that it's all best of 3 games.
What was the format in the Asian RMR?
So it's just a double elimination bracket, and the team that won the upper bracket final was locked in for the major. That was Mongolz over Linvision. And then Linvision dropped down to the lower bracket Constellation final, and whoever lost earlier in the upper bracket had to drop down and fight their way through the bracket to play in the lower bracket final for the second spot.
Wait, so we actually had the answer being used in another RMR, and we just didn't institute it in the North American RMR for fuck all reason.
There's plenty of options we could have had that were better than what we did.
That's actually so tilting. Yeah,
but there's something in the rulebook to do with the amount of teams, I think. Like, I think there's something in the rulebook, like, so that needs to be amended. It needs to be changed.
It also, that even goes even further back. The stupidity even reaches further back, because it's like if it's just a matter of teams, and this entire idea of taking a slot from the region is like, it's like fucking, like, reducing the team is like dumb. Why don't we just have the number of teams competing for it? Why don't we just make the number of teams at the RMR to fit the format we want to use instead? I don't know.
The problem is like the whatever the name is of the last stage now, the playoff stage, is like they're not guaranteed, right? So before, you used to have Furia and Liquid make top 8 pretty much at majors, or 2 other NA teams. So they had 2 legend spots at the time, or whatever. I can't even know how many times they changed the names, right? But once they dropped out, then there was 1 spot less for that region and 1 spot more for Europe, which created this abomination with Europe having to have an RMR for 32 teams instead of 16 teams, right? And the difference in spots for NA, where it's 5 spots, and Europe has, if Asia has 2, that's
Europe
7.
Has 17.
So there's 17, right? Which is kind of fuck. That's why you have the last chance qualifier. I guess you had both 2 RMR groups regardless, but that's why you have the last chance qualifier, and it's all fucked up.
I mean, I said this after the last RMR for Paris as well, and it's just like, it's still fucking insane to me that some European teams get 4 chances to go through, and then in Asia it's double elimination, and in NA it's Swiss with 2 eliminations. Like, it's the most mental thing in the world that there's just a region that just gets extra chances.
Yeah,
I agree.
It's just based on the sheer amount of teams that they're trying to get through, though, right? So I'm kind of hoping that, and I don't know if this is the case. I had information on things changing at one point, but I haven't had any decent information or decent conversations. Kind of stopped talking to all the people in the know for the last, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months. So, but as far as I heard, it was meant to be once we make it into next year, once it's open circuit. Like, I don't know if the RMRs are going to exist in the same capacity as they do now. And there might be different means of qualifying throughout the season into the major, which would be much better, because if we're going to have a tournament circuit that is full, like fucking chock-a-block with more TOs coming back, or more TOs running more events, for example, we all know of one of these TOs who's been out of the picture a little bit, who's going to be coming back and running apparently a lot of events come 2025. If that does become the case, well, then you're going to not have as much room in the calendar to be able to fit the RMRs in the first place. And then if these things all have set boundaries or rules or requirements that the TO has to have, like a certain amount of prize money, must be open qualification, must have certain standards in terms of the computers and matches and everything like that, then based off of the results that are happening at all of these tournaments throughout the course of a season, with the majors ending the season, you could have not points, or maybe points, I don't know, something like, so you're accruing based off your results throughout the season, and then that gets you, I don't know, 2 weeks before the major, a month before the major, that's the cutoff point, and these are all the teams who are locked in and qualified, or whatever. I don't know. I'm speculating. I don't have any information regarding that.
I mean, I would agree that would make some sense, that would be something that's instituted, but that once again, it all comes down to Valve having to take the wheel on that one.
But it means they wouldn't have to worry with the RMRs. So would you prefer to take the wheel across the course of the season and just come up with some rules and requirements? It is obvious that they are in conversation with some of these TOs. Like, we know they have conversations with these TOs. The thing is, I just have no longer been keeping up the relationships that I traditionally would to be able to get this information, because it's just like, why the fuck am I going to these people all the time having these conversations? Why? Like, why am I doing, why? Why are the TOs not coming to the people who know Counter-Strike the most, who work for them on all these events, and talking to us? They're not even Counter-Strike people, the people who are talking to Valve from these TOs. It's so that fucks me off more than anything. It's like people who are not Counter-Strike people talking to Valve about Counter-Strike. Fucking sick. Awesome.
Yeah, I think without a doubt, like, it's fucked that you need to, Vitality shouldn't be qualifying for the major, for example. The world's best teams shouldn't have to go through the qualification process, especially one that has, best of ones in it, like in the format in which it is now. Like, I don't care what you say, it can be the best team in the world, right? Like, best of ones in MR12, a couple of things go against you, right? And sure, you're supposed to perform in any situation, I think, but it is Counter-Strike. I mean, like, if you play, I don't know, if Vitality plays ecstatic 10 times in a best of one, like, they're gonna lose 1 time out of 10. Right? Out of 12, doesn't matter, like, how you want to put it, or whichever team, like, take a worse team if you want from the RMR, because Ecstatic actually made it to the fucking major, hilariously enough. But I think, like, a lot of people talk about 2 pistols and not much room for a mistake. Like, that's not the biggest reason why you shouldn't have best of ones. The biggest reason is the map, like the map pool. What differentiates, like, a good team from a great team is the depth of their map pool. And if you force them to play, on one map where the opponents can remove 3 before they get to that one map, like, you are hindering them and their advantage in that matchup. Right? Like, that's why we say do it in a best of 3, where you can get exposed for how shallow is your map pool, right? Like, when you're going to start 1-0 down, for example, because you just can't beat a good team on that map or something along those lines. Like, that's why it's dog shit. But I think also, I agree with you, Chad, that probably, I mean, the RMRs in its current capacity, they need to go, because it also takes like almost a month to do them. I don't know how much value is there for the TOs, because it does cost to fucking run them.
Well, PGL had good viewership. right? I think there was pretty decent viewership, and but
But
that's
it's also going in the game, right? The stream was popping up in the game.
Yeah. I think that's important. But yeah, the value, I guess, is what the TO can make of it. But to be able to like hire the talent and have all the hotels, and because Valve are covering everything player wise, right? They're covering for the players' flights and accommodation, whereas the TO then is probably covering like the food and all of those extracurricular things, and obviously paying all their staff and all of that type of stuff. So in terms of how much they can get out of it, you're obviously you guess you're packaging it together with the sponsors that you're selling on the major, and you're hoping that you can like eke out a little bit more to try and cover the cost of the RMR as well. But that's the thing; it's super exciting from the standpoint that you get to see teams that you don't normally see and all that type of stuff. I would just like that year round. I would just like it, and I understand that seems crazy because obviously to have open qualification for all of these events, like we're just going to be having qualifiers all the time. And I don't even know how we regulate that. And then you're looking at half of the conversations on Twitter at the moment, and everyone's calling out all these like fucking unknown people for cheating and clips and this and that, and guys running through bathrooms on fucking overpass, not clearing any angles with a smoke in his hand. And that is very disruptive to the scene overall. It's also, and I'm not saying it's not a problem. It definitely is a problem. It's also not a new thing. Like we've always had the concerns of cheating. That's why LAN is the purest of environments. But I don't know how we get around all these obstacles we have to create the system which would be the less disruptive over the course of the year to qualify teams for the major who should be at the major. Right? Like that's where it becomes sticky.
Don't we already have
cover all bases.
Don't we already have this system that you're talking about? We already have like a system where I feel like qualifiers are just played nonstop throughout the year.
Yeah. Well, they are for like Dallas,
non-partner teams.
Yeah. But I guess it needs to be something like tennis, right? Like the ATP, once you have a certain amount of points within the rankings, you're getting invited to events, and you can turn them down or you can go. And then if you go to these events and you do well enough, then you get more points, and that'll keep you in the top whatever you need to be to continue to get these invites. Like remember when I was going full fucking Rain Man Yanko in the ESL office with like the posters and the whiteboard? This was kind of a similar thing that I was trying to theorize back then, and coming up with like different weeks throughout the year because I think the EPT is a good framework. Obviously, it's ESL only, but if it was expanded and it was just like a Valve framework and they had something similar, and obviously the championship level events is Katowice and Cologne, but in this, the biggest events would be obviously the two majors at the end of the season, and then you'd sprinkle throughout the rest of the year different events of different calibers. So if I'm, I don't know, let's say Vitality, and I get invited to go to an event that's of like what would it be, like a ATP 50 or ATP, like one of the lower events, then
500,
yeah,
like
and
DreamHack Challenger,
exactly, and like I didn't want to go. Challenge. I just turn it down, and then the invite that would go to Vitality would trickle down to the next spot, right, or the next spot until some team in that top whatever would accept. Because you're not going to get many points. It's a tournament you don't have to go to because you already have enough to go to the bigger tier event that's coming up, and you're being able to focus on that. And that goes back to that conversation that I've had a million times previously, is about these teams exercising choice. Now, this was pre-pandemic. This was pre us being such locked into partner teams. But when we go open slather and fucking PGL, ESL, Blast, maybe Starlighter come back, right? Like I could just let's just live in a fantasy world. E-League come back, right? Like there's all these TOs. Teams are going to have to exercise choice because you're physically not going to be able to attend all of them, and you're going to need to be strategic. Okay, we go to this event. We know we're invited. We need to come top 4. We need to secure this many points to make sure we get invited to the next one, right? But then, yeah, I've thought about.
But you see,
so
the problem is also this. Like I wanted to look that up, like exactly how you get points. Like if you're a tennis player, how does it work?
I've looked at that before.
But don't mind that. Like a problem with Valve's ranking, in a sense, is also like it's right now it's only prize money based, right? Like it doesn't differentiate between LAN and online. So what can happen is, let's say Greyhound tomorrow, they have a sponsor, right? Or an org, and this org sends them to like a month-long boot camp in Europe. I know, great place, by the way. And they play all these online tournaments from there, and they make some prize money, right? Like my point is, like they would, as a team from a smaller region, get opportunities that other teams from that region can't get. So they would be the team that's at the top, or whatever, top 2, top 3 in that region. So they would secure an automatic invite, but that would be even more unfair, like let's say compared to like a partner team. You know what I mean? like, because you could just sort of buy your way into the opportunities, and sure, you still need to take advantage of them. But if you're a decent team, you know, and these online leagues as well, because the prize money isn't differentiated between LAN and online. So you're having these CCT cups, like Thunder Picks, whatnot, Rue Bets, Brazy parties, like all this shit's popping off with like now, what was it like for one of them? $333,000 like prize pool. Like that's more than Dallas, that's more than Rio, right? All these IEMs that are not Katowice and Cologne. So it matters a lot. I think it's what helped teams like probably Nine Pandas and AMCA like sort of make it into the close qualifier. I think that they had to that they were able to start. I don't think they had to play open ones. I might be wrong, but some of these teams definitely, benefited.
If seeding if seeding is going to be based on prize money the way it currently is, those are going to be some pretty fucking important events when a fucking crazy party comes in with like 300K prize pool.
I mean, they'll have to be careful about it. But I will say, when I look at the rankings now, they're pretty much fine. Like, you know, there's nothing, I don't think, too egregious standing out. You could argue, oh, this team should be 10 and not 13, like something like that. But those are not, you know, that's not going to change your destiny in a tournament, right? The problem was they didn't, for once, when we actually did get decent seeding, they didn't fucking update it. So in the end, a couple of teams still got screwed, like Falcons, like Liquid. Funny how both of them didn't make it.
I don't know though. I've tried to think about this. I don't even know if I can say that Liquid got screwed by seeding, because I don't.
But hold up, Jason. Yeah. I agree with your sentiment, but we need it. Two things can exist. Liquid can suck, and the format can be shit.
And they're not mutually exclusive, though.
Yeah. I agree, but like I don't really know the best way to go about like seeding a team like Liquid that is basically a brand new roster with three brand new players coming into the team. Like, what are you supposed to do with that in terms of seeding? Are we supposed to give them the benefit of the doubt because of reputation? And like seed them a little bit higher than some other teams? Or do we say this is a brand new roster and we don't really have enough information about how they play together to seed them that high? Like, I know if you asked all the teams to seed themselves at the event, Liquid would have been higher, but I don't know if there's like an actual proper fair way to not make them the last seed as essentially a brand new lineup that had no real competitions under their belt.
It needs to be a little bit from column A, a little bit from column B though, doesn't it? Like,
I think it's a fair point, though. Like, if you want to build like a completely new team, that's like a kind of risk you have to take. If you have no prior results together, they only had the blast
online
groups.
Stuff. They played online qualifiers. They struggled in the Dallas qualifier. They didn't make the Chengdu qualifier. The teams they were losing to is fucking.
I mean, let's be honest. Having watched that NARMR, like seeding and format issues aside, which especially the format is fucking atrocious, is fucking horrendous. But Liquid played like absolute ass in this RMR. Like I'm.
Oh, they were bad. Yeah,
I'm very surprised at how bad they looked. Like that team and that lineup, because this is where it gets hard. You give those players the benefit of the doubt and you see them a little bit higher, but like they were making like just basic fundamental mistakes. I was actually kind of shocked watching how little like cohesion and teamwork they felt like they had at sometimes, like the level of panic coming out at sometimes. Yep. Like that team coming together with those players with that level of experience across the board should be able to get through this RMR without too much of a problem. I mean, format issues aside, you know, like even some of their early matches in the best of ones, like before they played Furia, before they played Complexity, like some of those matches were just like, oh, like you guys are way lower than I feel like you should be, way worse.
But this is the thing. I was their first game against Bastia, right? It was 13-11.
Bastia.
They felt like they just got through that game. And I'm like, what? How is this even fucking possible, man? Like, what is going on? But anyway, I was negging on them not pretty hard. I think I was kind of like just like a bit disappointed because of the constellation of players in the team. But seeing their online results, I was like, this is not what this level of player being put together should be delivering. It should be better than this, just based off of the pedigree of the players. Like they should. Each and every one of those guys should be able to take over a match and fucking own a team like boss, right? Like they should be able to. Individually, like they should just be so much better. And I know that seems reductive, and it's not talking about the nature of Counter-Strike and like team game and this. No, but these are very good Counter-Strike players. Naf, Twists. I just those two names. I could just stop there. Those are both very, very good Counter-Strike players. So their online results, I was already quite like, what the fuck are we seeing? And then for them not to make it through on LAN, because I think the last conversation we had was, yeah, maybe I'm being a bit harsh. Maybe I need to wait and see what happens on LAN. And now this has fucking happened on LAN. It's like, no, they're just bad.
I got nothing to give you anymore. We gave you some patience for the first LAN for the RMR, and it's not a good look. It's not.
And now they have to play an event tomorrow for them.
Showdown,
the showdown starts, so they're probably a shattered unit who now this is their fucking Super Bowl, because you've got nothing to play for until what? China? Are they in China? No, they didn't qualify for China.
They're not doing China.
Pro League.
They got Pro League, and then they got Dallas.
And that's the thing. Pro League is such like a low prestige level event, and then Dallas to round out the season. And if they don't qualify for London, then nothing.
I mean,
if anything, Pro League is good because of the amount of games, at least for them, but that's a different topic.
Well, and if you're Liquid, aren't you saying, we didn't qualify for the major, and our punishment is going to be we're going to be boot camping during the major, and we're going to be the fucking go-to practice partner of every team that's at the major.
I guess if you want
major
to skin
teams
the cat that way.
I mean, that's what I would think you do at least a fucking week, right?
Well, do they change roster?
I don't know. That's tough.
I don't know if I'd be ready to pull the ripcord quite yet. Yeah, I don't think so. That's a really hard sell to pull off. I guess
there's two questions. Should they or will they?
I don't think they will. I don't necessarily think they should, but I think the problem is that's like an internal thing, depending on how everyone's like meshing and working together, how much like resistance there is to like compromise and change and how they want to play the game, right?
So what do you do? You give the team the next major cycle then? Because we're on like now, 7 months?
I don't know. I mean, I think on some level, if you're in Liquid, if you're like the GM or the coach, you're probably watching this major and saying like, I'm still going to keep my eyes peeled for a potential upgrade. And if there's like an opportunity that pops up that I can't say no to, then maybe you pull the trigger on it. But
isn't Skulls the only one that you'd look to upgrade? Like, can you?
I think I'd put Kinder in that list.
Okay,
I'd put Kinder above him.
Yeah,
really?
I thought Skulls was good. I thought he was solid. I don't think like he's not.
He was no good against complexity.
No.
Yeah.
Well,
I think
here's the thing.
Like,
I mean, Kinder wasn't very good against
many of the teams.
3-1?
Yeah.
I mean, Skulls was decent. Like, sure, he struggled in some games, but also, to be honest, I think he's a bit of a longer term play for Liquid. Like, this is his, first international team, completely new lineup. All these guys haven't really played together. I don't really count like Naf and Yikinder being like,
teammates,
buddies and and that was also Yikinder was in a different role. So it is like kind of a team brought together from all different sides. So that makes it even harder to get on the same page and like, put everything together. And you could tell that he was stressed. Some of his decision making was like stressed. It wasn't great. He didn't have a lot of confidence in some of the aim duels he was taking, which is usually his strong suit. So I don't think you saw like the real Skulls, which you can argue on one side, well, that's not acceptable. He needs to play better. That's why he was brought in. Or on the other side, you could maybe like exercise a little bit of patience and see how it goes through the next cycle as well, because I think like the payoff can be pretty good if they stick with it. But then you get to Yikinder, where it's like, I mean, even Twist said in some interview he was going through some personal stuff. I don't know what it is. I mean, that always sucks that you have something going on when you have to play such an important tournament, but I don't think he also really delivered, right? Or that he played all that well. And with Yikinder, there's a little bit of that extra baggage like just the sense of, having a lot of ideas and being super vocal and talking. I think Liquid might have a problem of also, too many cooks in the kitchen, right? With Cadian and Twist, who's vocal. You have Zeus, who's obviously the coach, and then Yikinder. And it's like, you could hear it from some of the interviews. It's like, okay, so Cadian has this, and then, I like to say something in the mid round, or I like to say this. And that can be, on one side, it's good because it keeps you like flexible or versatile or whatever. On the other side, it's not great because it's not really something you can count on repeating all the time. Like, that's off the cuff type of a thing, right? And it can be a little bit random, and then all of a sudden when you're whatever 6-0 down on overpass on T side, 7-0 down, like everyone's quiet, you have none of that, and then everyone's looking at KD and like, hey, what are we doing, bro? And it's like, well,
yeah, where are my secondary mid-round callers? Why aren't they vocal?
So I think I agree with Jason. What I would do is I would just keep an eye out, and if a player becomes available that would be a good replacement for your Kinder, I think I'd pull the trigger on that, because ever since he came to Liquid, bro, it hasn't worked out at all. Like, first he was brought in to be this, like, just player, like, for his firepower and whatnot, and ever since the start, the interview was like, oh, I'm teaching them how to practice, I'm teaching them this, I'm teaching them that, stuff, like, like, kind of, all right. Then he took over the in-game leader thing, like, complete disaster in a sense. Now he's back to playing, and he's not the player he was in VP. The question is like is he even like capable of playing, on that level that we saw in VP anywhere else, right? Like, we still haven't really seen that, and that's difficult to know without being on the team with him, like what the players and like
he gets like individual maps now and again. Well, not lately, but through his time in Liquid, he's had he had like I think some good impact on T side on Inferno against Complexity, right? Like, but it feels like it's too few and far apart. So I think I would do that, and then if nothing's available, maybe just stick with it, right? Because the conversation from the start was, yes, this is a completely new team, and they didn't get to play Katowice, so not as many official games on LAN to really work through things, and obviously they expected to at least make the major, but now they didn't. But that doesn't change the fact that about what they were saying before, that it's a long-term project and that it's like new players and that they need time to build it out. So if they truly believe in that and believe in the project, they shouldn't change anything, right?
But yeah, that's the thing. Like, I'm expecting a lot of roster changes after the major, or maybe not a lot. Yeah, I'll go with a lot, like a decent amount. So that's why I just wonder, I guess you guys are bang on, because anything could become available after the major. We don't know how it's going to play out.
I mean, I think we're going to see a pretty hectic year in terms of roster changes pretty much across the whole scene. Like, obviously some like the top 5 teams are going to be pretty resistant to it, but I think you're going to see a ton of teams jockeying as this transition into CS2. Like, we all knew there was going to be a certain percentage of CS:GO players that didn't make the jump and are going to get dropped pretty quick. And I think we'll continue seeing a decent amount of roster changes, mostly outside the top 5, but there's probably a lot of teams that are looking around and looking at young talent now and finding ways to improve and upgrade and get a little bit more spark and a little bit more fire within the team.
Well, I think also,
yeah.
I
was just going to say, I've guessed that the RMRs for the Perfect World Major will probably be starting late October and ending mid-November. Just based off of the timeline.
That major's what, beginning of December?
That major starts on the 1st of, I guess the travel day is the 1st of December, something like that. But it goes it goes until the 15th of December.
Sure.
So yeah, from the start of December until mid-December. So that's the thing. People have to gear up to the point where, and I'm only saying that RMRs, assumably you're going to need to be ready a month before that for the qualifiers, for the open and closed qualifiers. So that's what teams are going to have to be gearing up for.
So that's early November.
Early October.
Early October, yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, you're right. It's early.
It's early.
Yeah,
it's early.
But yeah. I did want to say those, like, for Liquid and that Complexity game, like a couple of details about the game specific, because I was watching it. Like, you go to overpass, right, and you're Liquid and you lose yet another pistol. Like, it can't be understated, the fact that they lost 6 out of 6 pistols. I mean, that's going to be rough. Whether it's MR15 or MR12, it doesn't matter, right? So what happens? You lose the pistol, no plant, you go eco, no plant, right? So you're buying in the third, and the call from Cadian is be short rush, right? Or a pop, whatever it is. Like, on a decider for your major spot, 0-2 down on overpass with no plants, meaning your buy is going to be, there's no op in play, right? There's only AKs, or maybe if you want to buy an SMG and all nades, whatever. I feel that's like so easy for Complexity, like such an easy round to
be ready
because
for,
in freeze time, yeah, exactly. In freeze time, like, what are you doing that round? You're saying like, okay, maybe we can play heavy B, or just be ready for a B pop. Like, that could be something that they do.
They're not going to search A with an AWP. Yeah.
Yeah. The only thing that that like the other side could be, okay, maybe there's a couple of SNGs left on complexity, so Liquid would naturally like try to go long or try to go A to take advantage of the distance. So they were like, maybe he was anticipating a heavy A setup in the first gun round and wanted to be one step ahead. But that's still such a risky fucking call to make, right? Because when it doesn't work out like it didn't, and they didn't plant again, you're 4-0 down. And that's not the only thing. When you do that in the first gun round, what are you going to do in the second one?
Then you get a default.
You're going to do a default, right? So what was Complexity doing? That's when they were doing aggressive plays, the setups, and the game just becomes easier for Complexity to play. And you could tell up until that lucky round that they won somehow with Kindar flanking from heaven. Like that was a miracle. They even won that round, but Complexity was just always one step ahead.
Yeah,
because they were making information plays, and Liquid was too slow in their setups. It was too easy to read, and I think that at that point it probably came a little bit from like the stress on the players and the pressure and not having the confidence in that moment.
It certainly helped that Elige was fucking teaching him a lesson over at bathrooms in a bomb site. Like every time they tried to take over bathrooms or go long, like Elige had 1, probably 2 kills, you know, like it's one of those maps where like if you go in that direction and that rifler just like picks off, kills one of you each and every time you're even in that part of the map, like that becomes so I would imagine, Chad, maybe as an in-game leader, that starts to be like mentally like, okay, we just can't go here because I lose 2 players every time I call this default. You know, like we don't get the space, we don't get the map control, and we're down 4v5, 3v5, 3v4, whatever it might be.
Definitely doesn't help the situation, does it?
Yeah, that's certainly like I imagine it just wrecks your entire flow. We're just like, fuck's sake, can we please not like die? Like Elige made him pay a tax every time they went to that map. So
we're talking obviously very like Liquid focused right now and starting to leer into a bit with Complexity. But overall, for the teams that qualified, right? Furia, Imperial, Complexity, Legacy, and Pain. No MIBR, right? No Liquid. Those are 2 names that I thought would have been there, like almost 100%. And then maybe a fringe team for me would have been potentially Nouns, but they came in last place. And I want to say NRG got eliminated from the major twice. So that's pretty damn good for them.
So much for you, Jason, saying like NA teams don't get enough opportunities.
Oh, it's not.
Don't get enough chances.
Yeah, we don't, you know.
Well, like this, it's like 1 North American team. You have, 3 North American players, a South African, and a Norwegian in Complexity.
Yeah, no Canadians.
Players. Yeah, no Australians.
Well, we all knew that you American players are superior to the Canadian players. So.
Nice, Jason. I just wanted to finish real quick on the overpass note. Like, so Liquid somehow gets like what was it in the end? 4 rounds. Like that's actually, you know, they could have gotten 5 actually,
T-side, right?
And it looked terrible.
Serviceable.
Yeah, it was 7. They were 7-0 down. It looked like a disaster, right? And then they lose the pistol yet again. It was crazy. Actually, you know, the Complexity had a great counter, but never mind. Then it comes to that like fucking Tech 9 round, right?
Oh,
where
it
is like easy to point to the spray of Yakindar and he's being a little bit out of position, like too aggressive.
The Cadian
right?
And he did after that.
He did fuck it up, but then you get to Cadian. Why is he re-peeking 7 times? Like he gets the first guy, then he misses the second, then it's like, I fucking missed this guy. Like I should have gotten him, and then you stick around, and that death broke the round for Liquid, because if he just falls back and stays alive, you know, buys time. Twist was there fairly quickly, but because Cadian died so fast, then he just got that. Then JT hit some, you know, blinders and the round fell apart. And you could argue maybe he would have hit them regardless. Like, but the problem, the thing there is like, you have to play it. You have to play the percentages. You have to, you're not going to, and that tells you about, first of all, I mean, Cadian was also, you know, pretty bad on that decider map. And I think tells you a little bit about the state of mind of some of these players. Like, why are you feeling you need to go for that re-peak against pistols, right? Like, and usually it's a sign of stress, right? We're not thinking clearly, and you're just taking matters into your own hands. That's what we used to say. That's why what we say about like younger players, inexperienced teams. Like you could see that they're just going for it themselves. They're not playing as a team. They're not trusting their teammates, right? They feel like they need to be the hero every single time. Like that's what you saw from Liquid in some of those rounds, and from Cadian, who's supposed to be, you know, the captain, the leader, like the guy who's always going to keep that stuff in the back of his head, right? And that round really broke their back.
Yeah. It felt like there's like a lack of confidence that the team can pull it off. So individuals sometimes have to pull more weight than they should even be attempting.
But this is where we got to look bigger picture. Can they ever be good?
Yeah, I think.
How long will it take?
Well, you better start seeing something after coming into. You better see something by the player break, right? Like,
but that's the thing. The rest of the season's fucking.
Dallas, you better see something in those two tournaments. Otherwise,
it's not a hugely motivating remainder of the season.
No, it's.
Yeah,
not.
I think the only question is, and we talked about this in our episode when we were talking about Liquid when they were formed. Is like actually one of the questions is firepower. Like, do they have enough of it? And the questions we wanted to answer is like about mostly Yekindar and Cadian, right? Like how much can they contribute in those two roles? And at this RMR, it wasn't good enough from either of them, so those players need to step up. Sure, Skulls too. But I do believe he'll get better with time and a little bit more, reps in this roster and an English speaking team. But that's the big question. Like, can those guys do it? If not, then you need to make changes because there's so many other teams out there that have great team play and great leaders and everything. But on top of that, have a ton of firepower. So you're not going to be able to beat them.
I don't know if it's firepower that concerns me with Liquid. It's more like the number of players that, like, how they put that firepower to use. Like, I think Naf, Twist, Skulls obviously
disjointed,
have good firepower, but like Yekindar is really the only like aggressive, space-taking, playmaking style player. Like it feels like they don't necessarily have the firepower in a position where more people can make something happen on the map. If that makes sense.
You think the roles that they're lacking another? Well, I guess you have a different constellation of a team when your AWP is also your in-game leader, because traditionally your in-game leader is a rifler. When we look at like a Hooks or a Carrigan or whatever, they're going to play a very disruptive. Yeah,
yep.
They're like Moses parting the water to make way, Jason.
Mm.
I like that. Ooh, yeah.
So yeah, I guess you have a different balance you need to strike with the AWP in-game leader.
And also, I mean, there's another thing about this whole NARMR, which is. So many teams are saying, we had to play, Furia and then each other or whatever. Why are we pretending like Furia was some behemoth that, you have to play against? Like, sure, they're one of the best teams in that RMR, without a doubt, but they were a team that's been struggling this year. So why is it a given that like, you're an underdog against them?
Yeah, you wouldn't think that, right?
And you can say what you want about Furia, but they always deliver in the fucking RMR. Like they always get their shit together enough. They take care of business and they go to that major. And one of the things I will say though, which people are losing their minds as well. Well, mostly it's Brazilians losing their minds. It's like this fact
here we
about
we're fucked now. It's over.
We got it.
Why? Just this thing.
Interactions. That's gonna be good.
Just this thing where it's like they're going. Why isn't Furia in the legend stage or whatever, the top 8 stage and its complexity, right? I actually love it that it's this way, right? That you're using the seeding, because I hated the fact that, remember when Sprout was a team that went straight to legends because they showed the RMR in Europe and went 3-0 and that was it. Like, to me, it's crazy that just your performance in one tournament, where, by the way, 2 best of ones, or in this case,
one best of one and a best of three.
No, 1-0 game was still best of 1.
Yes. So it's 2 best of ones and a best of 3.
Two best of ones and a best of 3, right? And all of a sudden you're guaranteed top 16 at the most important tournament, there is. And that also guarantees you a spot at the RMR, right? Like the next one directly, I think so.
Yeah, top 16 gets you a spot at the RMR, right?
Yeah. So
as long as
I like it. I like it that it's this way. Like, it's looking at the seeding, and the seeding includes the events that happened previously. And that way we can't have a team that just shows up good at one tournament, get rewarded, and all the teams that have been doing well for a while. So in short, I like that it's decided this way, and it works out great for Complexity, who've
been
managed
better looking team.
Yeah, and I think, and also in this capsule with all these teams, that's going to be a lot of money for our boy Jason Lake. Shout out.
Big J Lake.
But right now it is a little bit unfair because Complexity is a partner team and they get to play in Blast and they maybe got some points for that. which, a team like Furia couldn't get. So yeah, at this point in time, it might be a little bit skewed because of that. But once we get out of the RMRs and just use the seeding, I think at that point it will be fine. So I think, people are getting mad about it, even about some European teams. I can't remember who was it that was like 3 that didn't get, like Cloud9. Yeah, Cloud9 isn't in there, but it's like, Cloud9 was sucky for a while. So they need to earn their way.
I agree. We were all aware that that's how the legend spot was going to be done, right? Like heading into these RMRs, that was all.
Well, we were. I guess the fans weren't. We tried to make it clear on broadcast, didn't we? Remember, if you go there, you will not go through. We'll do the things.
You just can't help them sometimes.
Yeah.
What else happened at the NARMR?
Yeah, but
Warden through water on Malbs.
That's fucking, I don't even know. Kind of awesome.
Now, Jason, explain yourself.
Like, obviously, it should never happen, but the idea that you just throw water on somebody during a handshake is so funny to me. I can't be the only one. I can't be the only.
Tell us, give us some. You actually played against him back in the day, so is this?
Yeah, he gets.
Is this the classic?
He gets
more than like.
No, I've never seen the water tactic before. I've never seen it out of him ever.
It's a new strategy.
Yeah, he's brought it up he's saving it for the RMR, saving it for the important event. Yeah, it obviously shouldn't happen, and especially from the coach position. And I do love Matt. I like Warden a lot. Played against him and with him for a while, so it's unfortunate, but you can't do that as the coach, as the leadership figure of the team, and especially when but both teams were shouting back and forth at each other, Warden and I forget who shouted after a round, y'all are getting real quiet now, talking some shit during the game, and it's all fair game, but you can't be the one who loses your fucking cool to the extent that you threw
especially
water on
after you've lost.
Yeah, and I wonder what he could have possibly have said to trigger that little moment right at the end, but at some level,
I think absolutely nothing, bro. It's fucking Malbs.
I know.
Whenever we talk to him, he seems like such a
but at the same time, it is such a funny image in my brain that I can't stop laughing, even though it shouldn't occur. Was it in a cup? Was it in a water bottle?
That's true. Did he squirt it?
Yeah, did he have to squirt and do that little bit of a jerk with the bottle to make sure enough water comes out? Was it just an open
How much
cup
water?
Just chuck? Yeah, was it the last sip? Was it a full cup? I need to know these things.
Had he drunk from the bottle? Was it
straight
water?
to the face? Was it a bad date? Splash of water in the face?
Did he go for the crutch to make him look like he pissed himself?
Yeah, there's so many things that we don't know about this situation that I want to know.
We need an investigation on the water situation. If you or anybody you know was there at the time of the Warden versus Malbs water incident, slide into our Discord. Let us know in private. We will protect your identity.
There's cameras around. There's got to be footage of this.
Was Coopster there? Maybe he has the.
He's always chatting in the Discord.
The
scoop,
but
the splat.
but yeah, that was fair. And final, everyone's now aware of Malbs. I've been telling you guys for years this guy deserves an opportunity, and the teams should have.
He didn't make the major, though, did he, Yanko?
Well, he had to play with his fucking coach, Chad, didn't he? And I'm sure that didn't help all too much. And one more thing, he had to go up against the man, the myth, the beast, Coldzera.
That's true.
The fucking qualification game.
Can I just
Coldzera back at the major 2024, bro.
Before
I didn't have that on my bingo card.
Before we glaze up cold too much, can I just mention, so we can leave M80 behind, can I just mention the players that Def was rated higher than at the RMR?
Absolutely.
Here we go.
Yeah.
He was rated higher than JT, MBG12, Shane, Floppy, Peeping, Lunchov, JBA, Cryptic, Darty, Stanislaw, Neckiz, George, of George Snort's fame, Noxy, Safe, Deco, CJ Da King, Infinite, OC, Hexed, Carson, and Daps. Def had a higher rating than all of those players.
Bro, NRG's got 3 players in the bottom 4 of the event.
And one of them's OC. What happened, OC, man? What did they do to you in Liquid, man?
Oh my God. That is so I don't even care the excuse of we just found out late, we didn't get a boot camp, we only had 1 week before we knew we were going. Bro, 3 of 4 people on the bottom.
Yep.
Makes it really hard to bang the drum for OC still.
Yeah, it really does. It does. I was part of OC for Halzerk team, but now that team's dead.
Yeah,
the team is dead in the water. Nah, we'll forget about that.
But people can look at Malbs potentially for an upgrade, like, because his English is really, really good as well. I think he went to high school in the US, like he speaks English, Spanish, and Portuguese. And I think the problem was from team 1, he went into that 0-0 nation team, like with cold and that was all over the place. I don't think that was like a
Positive
good environment
experience.
at all. I think that team was like really broken, and then that wasn't like a real opportunity for him, and he's getting sort of one now. I guess he's fighting for one in M80. I mean, that's not like a team full of high caliber players. I mean, I watched that game against Legacy. That was a fucking mess, bro. Like, so many. It wasn't great Counter-Strike, right? It came down to some like hero moments and individual plays, and M80 not being able to throw the meta smoke for boost and just dying to it on B on Inferno all the time. Like, wasn't great to watch, but
bro,
hey,
Henny had a 1.62 rating.
The alligator's back, baby.
He's having
Imperial has 4
peaks.
players at the top. Like, their guys are the first 4. Henny, No Way, Phelps, and Decenti. I don't know exactly.
Who knows?
And then Vinny is 9th, so they have all 5 in the top 10 because they just rolled over everyone. But that's again, like, you're always going to have this with the fucking, especially with the shit Swiss, like, Pain beat teams. Pain had the Vitality run, like they beat teams outside the top 30 to make the major, kind of. That's just how it worked out. So
13
they'll be loving
Legacy,
that.
13-10 Red Canids, 2-0 Odic. They lost to Imperial 2-0, but yeah, that's a nice little route. Although I will say, I got to give credit. Like, Big Uzera's fucking badass in-game leader. I'm just gonna throw that.
And still fragging while doing it. Yeah,
that's the same way. It's same way he was with Skulls and Pain last year at the RMR for Paris. Like, those two were beast mode, and Big Uzera was doing it again. But I mean, you even think of the idea, and like, I know it's like, the easier of the RMRs between Americas and Europe, obviously, but you think how many teams kind of after Paris geared up with that major break and said, we're going to start rebuilding a team to qualify for the next major. Like, that's the goal, is start from scratch, which he had to do, and that's a pretty fucking valuable in-game leader to put together another major qualifying squad, even if they did get an easy route. Like, that's huge.
Yeah, with the players, which are some names that we've seen, but not that we've seen a lot from.
And I remember, like, last year, like, after the Paris major, I thought I was going insane, like, looking at Pain and looking at this roster that was all benched and, like, not playing.
Yeah,
and, like, players leaving. And it was like, what the fuck is happening to this team that's been, like, knocking on the door for a while? Like, Skull's not playing, he had potential. Big Uzera not playing, he has potential. And, like, for that team to break up, like, I don't know. I'm surprised they've come all the way back with a new lineup and qualified again. That's huge.
Yeah.
Bro, they had to miss out. Like, they pulled out of Cologne. Yeah. Like, they didn't play Cologne because they couldn't field the roster.
And that's why I even thought, like, that was the change that I wanted to see in Furia. It was like Furia bring in Skulls and Big Uzera last year. And I still actually think that team would be pretty fucking fire, even this year. If Big Uzera, Skulls, K Serato, Yuri, and I don't know, I guess Safe as an op, but I mean, throw in whatever op you want. I'll even take Fallen, and I think that still would have been a pretty solid team. But obviously, Furia's not complaining right now either, so whatever.
No, they're quite happy with things. Yanko, what are you doing in 3 hours, 50 minutes, and 2 seconds from now?
Watching Simple play CS2.
Close.
Was that a good answer?
It's a bigger blockbuster fixture than that. That's more than 3 hours, 49 minutes and 48 seconds away. You will be watching Fnatic in the grand final of the Res Regional Series 1 Europe, taking on none other than the coach Kassad's team Bleed. Volden in the roster, Cypher, Faven, and Cirque and Hampus. They have done it. They have made it to the grand final of the Res Regional Series 1 Europe. $50,000 on the line.
Holy shit.
You guys excited?
They got to a final of something? Yeah, man. I'm hyped. I even had that cheeky tweet when, they tweeted out the Liquid Complexity game. Don't let this joy away from the fact that Bleed has won 5 series in a row.
They're back, man.
What does Res stand for?
I don't know.
Regional Esports Series, Regional Series 1?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it stands for, Jason. It's not important.
Yeah, I know. It's just what my brain's on right now. I want to know what Res means.
Well, they took down BetBoom. So apparently Lonks was the problem. They think they've won, 12 out of the 14 maps they've played. They've won every series. They've only lost 2 maps across.
They won six matches in a row.
Yeah, they're fucking back, baby. They never were here, but they're fucking back.
Ever since that loss to the Mouse Academy team, they haven't lost a game.
Look at that. It woke him up. Kasadi, he scared the living daylights out of the team that they can't lose again. So it's all come together. But yeah, sorry, Jason, we won't be watching Blast. We'll be watching the Res Regional Series 1 Europe. So
it's fine. Okay I'm shocked that you guys don't want to watch the NIP youngsters play against Heroic, personally.
Yeah, that's all right. I think just to end on the NARMR, yeah, MIBR was a big surprise for me because they were showing some good stuff. They also boot camp for a long time in Europe for the event. So for them to bow out in a fashion they did, they lost 2-0 to Legacy. It wasn't even close. That was surprising. And yeah, just, Cold being back, kind of, it's one of those.
He's the AWPer now for him.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it doesn't AWP all the time, the proper AWPers do, but when they need one, he picks it up. To have, Cold back. Obviously, he wasn't away for that long for majors, but, Cold is there, Snacks is there, Snacks is there, C's is there.
Sorry, Snack.
But, yeah, I think I just want to see, man, Dumao and Lato, there were these 2 names that people were hyping up and stuff, and, they made the Stockholm major with Godsend, with Taco and Cold, right, in that lineup, and you could tell they were, just way too scared. They choked in their games and stuff. But, that was 2.5 years ago now, right? I feel like sufficient time has passed for them to be able to just play CS and everything. So I want to see if they can really pop off or if it was just kind of overblown a little bit.
I mean, look, I think Duma's one that we've been talking about on and off as the next good Brazilian talent over the last couple of years. So some consistency in these type of events is the way that you need to go about keeping that name or actually making that name, right? Improving it. So Major's a great place to do that. I think that the opening stage which starts in 11 days, mind you, is a very good spot for them to do that because you look at the field there, right? I'll read out the names. I'm not expecting you boys to remember every single one, but it's difficult to find an 8 that I'm confident in saying will go through to the top 16. Cloud9, Eternal Fire, Ents, Apex, Heroic, Nine Pandas, Saw, Ecstatic, Amcal, Koi, Furia, Imperial, Pain, Legacy, the Mongols, and Lin Vision. I've got a kind of difficult time picking 8 out of that are clear. I don't think there are 8 clear teams there.
Yeah, I mean,
I would like to see Mongolz go through. I would like to see Eternal Fire go through. I'd like to see Heroic go through. I'd like to see Cloud9 go through. After that, I'm starting to get a little bit lighter on.
I think those are pretty good picks. I would probably go for all of those. I think Mongols are.
I hope Mongols make it.
Sick.
Man.
They're fun.
Yeah, but that's the one that can disappoint is Cloud9. They again play someone in their first game. They have they play Ecstatic, I think, in their opener.
It could be Anubis as well. Ecstatic like Anubis, Cloud9 like Anubis.
I mean, surely Cloud9 would just wins that. Yeah.
Well, they should in theory, but I don't know. I thought Salazar was
Cloud9,
good.
man. I wouldn't be surprised if fucking go and lose to Rare Adam now.
Nah, they're not going to lose to Rare Adam.
Go.
Yeah, go.
Corey, Fozy, somebody.
They lost to Rebels, guys.
That's true. They
beat
did.
Rebels.
Okay, true.
So
can I just say with Mongolz, for them, I think seeing them in the Asian RMR, that was them just going, "We are better than everybody. We do not give a fuck. You guys all suck." They didn't say or think that, but that's kind of the type of Counter-Strike they played. My biggest concern is in the pressure matches is Mazinho, because we saw him get a little bit shy, and he played pretty poorly in Katowice in the pressure games, I thought. So I don't know how they're going to fix it with him, because he is only 16, or at least he was 16 last time I checked. And that's not me pointing fingers and going, "Oh, you suck." That's me saying he's 16. And I don't know how many of our listeners have ever been 16, but that's definitely quite a young age to be playing top tier professional Counter-Strike against the very best in the world. So he's a concern for me, not showing up and sometimes being way quiet. But also, Sens is only 17, so they do have quite a young team. 19.5 is the average age of Mongolz. Holy shit.
You were playing professional Counter-Strike at 16?
professional was 18 for CGS, I guess.
Oh, did you have to be 18 for CGS?
Yeah, you couldn't play CGS unless you were 18.
That's fucked
couldn't,
up.
Yeah, couldn't get in otherwise. So,
all right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just difficult. It's just nervy. It's under the light. So hopefully, like more reps. And Yanko, you were saying like him and Senzu were owning, or was it Techno? Either way, they were playing a lot of FPL, weren't they?
Yeah.
So hopefully they're feeling comfy.
I think you're right. Like Mzinho was the one that you could tell that it's some of the decision making and wasn't up to par, and was definitely like the weak link you would point to, but perhaps it is a little bit of pressure. We'll see. Obviously, you're not going to make any changes, but perhaps this extra time in Europe helped him, and the convincing run in the Asia RMR.
It's just a mental thing for sure.
Maybe, yeah, I think so. I think you're hoping that helped him, but if not, I think you could see where it's moving with the Mongols if that ain't the case. But
what do you think about the Greyhound situation?
I think it was just the fact that they didn't have proper practice. I mean, that they didn't
not inform.
Yeah, that they didn't do a boot camp kind of to an extent, right? Because they've been saying it themselves, and it's no secret that the practice is even more limited in Oceania than it is in North America, right? And we know it's pretty limited there as well. So I think that ended up hurting them when it comes to playing against teams like, well, they didn't meet, no, they did meet the Mongols in the best of one.
They got owned like 16-4, 13-4 or something.
Yeah, and then the problem is, the Mongols, first their season started in like January, I don't know when. Like they played a lot of officials qualifiers. They played a LAN in China. Then they come to Katowice. After Katowice, they stay for 20 days in Europe to boot camp. I mean, they were like fucking ready, like they were kind of, I don't want to say all inning, but they were really, really committing to this RMR, like knowing it's not going to be a walk in the park. And I think it's that approach that really got them to stroll through it.
Yeah,
in a way,
sure.
Right? For Greyhound,
it also helps watching, that you have that confidence building if you're the Mongols, like over all these events of performing well against Europeans. Like they've been.
Yeah, but that comes from being in form, I think, right?
Yeah,
like you're confident because you.
Yeah, I'm just saying that confidence is just that extra layer, like if once you have that confidence that you can compete with like the best teams in the world, like it makes life so much easier because it takes so many like second guessing out of your decisions. You're just like, yep, we're good enough for this. Like we know we're better. Like let's just rock and roll.
They're easily the best strategic team.
Yeah, and they were the first ones who made. You have to remember in those play-ins, like they made groups of Cologne and Katowice, or one of the two, but they knocked out Furia both times. Like Greyhound usually just comes in and gets their ass whooped.
Yeah.
And then they go to the major and they beat one team. So they ruin everyone's pickings and then they get eliminated, right? So Mongols were better than them for a while now, but you were hoping that, with Dexter and finally getting a coach as well behind them, like that was the boost they needed, but they just couldn't really be on the level of these other teams.
Also, like if you even just look at the Greyhound like results from like 2024, they hadn't dropped a map to like
Dexter hadn't lost a map with Dexter.
Like it's crazy to like look at like how like, and you're just like never getting challenged. You just like are never having any of your ideas actually with any resistance from the other Australian teams, and just end up just getting shocked because all of a sudden it doesn't work against the better teams. They just had a fucking run of just body bagging in Australia.
I think there was I don't know if they would have been able to do it anyway in terms of having the resources or whatnot to be able to go overseas in boot camp anyway. But I know they had some qualifiers before. I'm not trying to make excuses for them because I think that they played pretty bad. I think when I watch them, I can see that there's a better overall understanding of what they need to do. But something that I thought was going to be an issue for them was when you're having Dexter come in and kind of help a bit more with the structure and approach to the game and help bring some of the ideas of the European meta across, which he definitely did. When the pressure gets higher, those players aren't playing anymore. They're thinking and they lock up and they make some missed decisions, or they don't go for the push they normally would, or they don't make the play that they normally would. And I felt it was going to cost them, and it did end up costing them for sure. And I think that like Dexter probably has them on the right track, but the thing is, I'm trying to help facilitate at the moment something, because Greyhound doesn't exist anymore, right? They're free agents, so I'm trying to help facilitate something now which could get them into a new organization and hopefully the ability to be overseas a little bit more. But my opinion is there's certain components of that team that need a change if this team wants to actually properly compete anyway. I don't think they can compete as is, even with more time in form in Europe. I think like players, there's a couple of players that need to be changed. They probably need to get either some mentorship or somebody from Europe to be there as an advisor or a coach, or someone who's just a bit more in tune with the meta and the type of mistakes that some of these players are making to fast track things along, because we all know it. We don't need to keep saying it. They're not going to be able to compete if they're based out of Australia. That's just true. That's the best Australian teams ever did was when they were based out of America and doing long boot camps in Europe. That was when 100 Thieves and Renegades did the best they ever did, was because they were based out of North America and they were spending long periods of time in Europe. And that just meant that they were playing the higher tier of Counter-Strike just on a regular basis.
There's also when North America was at its best as well.
Yeah, but that's the sake of it though. Like, I'm not like the fucking, sorry, Jason, I'm not like the North Americans. Boo hoo, our scene is weak. What can we do to fix it? You can't fix the Australian Counter-Strike scene. Like, let's not be fucking daft. Like, let's just be realistic for a second. It's just you're too far away from the rest of the world. Unless you're going to inject a lot of money to have a lot more professional teams down in Australia, how are you meant to compete against anybody worthwhile? None of the other teams are making any money. They're not salaried, right? They're all having to either study or work. They do it because they love it. And the only ways that I can think of to try and bolster that would be having larger tournaments in Australia just for the local teams. But my idea to make the best Australian team better is by transplanting them away from Australia, which does nothing for Australian Counter-Strike, which is the same problem which we came into back when I was playing. We took the best team from the region and moved them to North America to compete and make North America stronger, not Australia. Right? Like, it's this fucking catch-22 that's broken, and it's just the way it is. Like, it really is just the way it is.
It's also the way that it's just gone, because the Counter-Strike scene has, like, the focus has shifted from having like those smaller like regional events that pop up. Like, those operators don't exist anymore. They don't make money anymore, so nobody really runs them.
But even in Australia, it's that on steroids, Jason. It's like America, right? In the sense that if you're on the West Coast or the East Coast, you'd probably only play an event on the side of the country that you're on. In Australia, it's the same thing. Like, maybe somebody from Sydney would go to Melbourne to play a LAN event. Maybe at a stretch, somebody from Brisbane would go down to Sydney to play like a LAN event. But otherwise, if you're from Perth, just to get return flights from Perth to Sydney, and I'm on the low end here, I'm on the like, oh wow, the Lord and Savior is being kind to us on these flights we're booking today. It's like $800 Australian return. It's probably more like $1,200 Australian return just for flights. That's for one person. So it's not really something which is feasible and financially possible. And teams in Australia are no longer as state-based as they once were, which is a good and a bad thing, because you're bringing the talent from all over the country and putting them together into these teams. So in theory, it should be stronger. But then you can't even practice with your team at your local LAN cafe or get together and do all those things because, as I said, the flights are so far away and shit. And then not only that, it's not just Australian players. We always talk about it as just Australia, but New Zealand as well, right? Chelios, Netic, Sicko, who was on Greyhound before. They're all New Zealanders, right? They're not Australians. They're New Zealanders, and they're international, right? They have to fly with over the fucking ocean to get to Australia. So there's a lot of problems there, and hopefully some of them that we can try and fix. But there does have to be changes. So
first of all, Chad, who are the two to go?
I think I sound like such a cunt, but
really throwing the bus at him here.
Like, he's talking about, man, he's saying like, well, some changes need to, he's like beating around the bush. It's like, just say who you think should be removed.
I think that Alistair, they need a European AWPer. I don't think you can replace it with anybody from the region AWPing wise. I think Alistair is the best you can get from the region. I think you need to replace him with a European. I just think he's a good, like, flary AWPer to get, and he's good for the team. Like, he gets fired up and stuff. But I'm just watching some of his rotations and the type of deaths and stuff he gives away. For an AWPer who's meant to have an overview of everything that's going on the map so he can rotate accordingly, he doesn't have that. And I think that is something that is going to really hamper them if they ever want to be a better team. And it depends on the players available. But I would say Liaz, because he's the one with the most international experience out of all of them. He's been to a semi-final of a major. He was part of the most successful Australian team of all time, but it doesn't really feel like he's developed. For me, I saw him going back into Oz and being like absolutely dominating, like just being, because he was meant to be the second coming of JKS in terms of like the roles he played and the type of like player he was, but it doesn't feel like he's really developed a lot. So if you could get JKS into the team, then I feel like you would replace Liaz with JKS. If you can't get JKS into the team, then maybe you can keep Liaz, but you need to work on his development overall, because I feel like he should have a lot more to give. I feel like he should be more confident with the type of player that he is. But yeah, there definitely would have to be some changes there. I don't know Urquhart as a coach or anything. I don't know what he really delivers. I think you'd need more of a European influence, to be honest. And it doesn't necessarily mean that Urquhart can't be the coach, but you'd need somebody else there to be watching, and someone who's maybe less matey with the team, a bit more of like an authority figure to say it as it needs to be. But there's definitely some changes that need to happen with, because here's the thing: they're in Chengdu, they're in Pro League, they're in Dallas. Right now, they're playing for the next season of Pro League. Like, they're literally playing in the online event right now to qualify for the next season of Pro League. So they will have events, right? Yeah, right. It's crazy.
The one post break?
Yeah, season 20.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
So they will have events, right? So there is value behind having the core of the team. But if we want to make sure that they are high enough in the world rankings, so at the next fucking RMR, Australia doesn't get one spot and the Middle East gets fucking two because Greyhound hasn't done well enough. It's just fucked. Because they haven't done well enough at any international event to be higher up in the Valve World Ranking. That's how the spots get distributed, right?
Yeah, but
that can't happen.
Who from the Middle East was making? I think
it was like Twisted Minds or some shit was higher somehow. I don't know how exactly, but yeah. So like they need to make sure that that's facilitated, and they better fucking hope and pray that the boys at Mongolz are as fucking good as we think they are, and they can make the top 8 at the major, so the region can get a third spot. Because it's still going to be fucking hard to take on Linvision and Mongolz at the next RMR, regardless. IMO. TBH, LOL, Rafflecopter.
That's a high ask from the Mongols, but
come on, Mongolz!
Format that has best of ones. I guess anything can happen, really.
Let's go, Mongols.
Matchup dependent, so they get their maps. But yeah, I agree with you. That's where I thought you were going to go with the changes. And I think, yeah, I was just happy they got any coach, even though like Urquhart, knows them or whatever. Just like have someone who will be able to take a timeout, for you guys. But yeah, ideally, I guess that would be it. Getting like a European opera, JKS back in there and a proper coach and being able to spend more time in Europe. But I actually think it's not necessarily a disastrous thing if they do spend a good amount of time in Europe, because obviously they would want to, they wouldn't live there. I guess, they would just go for, let's say, a 2-week long boot camp before they have an event, right? And then they go to an event.
Maybe a month-long boot camp, Yanko. We ain't fucking around, man.
All right.
I don't know.
Hey, I have a great place for you. It's apartments, not hotel. You love it, but we'll get, we'll do that post show.
We'll have those conversations.
But I think actually, eventually, they would come back to us, right? Like even outside of the player break, perhaps. And I think
but they'd have to qualify they would for these events.
Yes, exactly. And also just to, whatever. And then that would be the opportunity for these other teams to play them. And then, how it is, Chad, right? Like if you have something all the time next to you, you get used to it, right? You start taking it for granted, right? You get a little bit relaxed. But, if it suddenly gets taken away from you, all of a sudden you're wanting this thing even more, like your desire grows, like you're regretting the fact you didn't appreciate it while it was there. So then now that Greyhound, they're going to be away for long, when they're back, all these other teams are going to be like, hey, the good team is here, like the team that we can learn from, right? Like that we can steal some new things for our whatever local land. There's no local land, but local online tournament, and maybe that will make them a little bit more serious in those practice games and sort of like ramp up to that and hopefully elevate the level in a way,
Yeah. Well, I want to try as well, because I'm kind of like the dad who went out for milk and then I never came back. So I want to try in the next couple of years as well with some opportunities that might be coming my way where I can help facilitate a healthier LAN scene down there. And that wouldn't be for the best team. That would be for everybody else, to give them something to play for, like sizable prize money in tournaments, for example. While the best Oz team are away competing, there's something for these guys to be fighting amongst the rest of them. Because the problem becomes, and I think I saw a headline on HLTV from one of the Brazilian teams, which is similar to what is the issue with Australian Counter-Strike. Where is it here? I might not be able to find it, but
they're trying to be the best Brazilian team, not the best team.
Exactly. And that's the same case in Australia, because there's only one. Well, there's 2 pro league spots now, but the amount of opportunities you're fighting for, you're all fighting for that same thing. So one of the issues we would always have when we would go home, the teams that would always be the second under us would just be looking to counter what we do, as opposed to like expanding the way that they actually approach the game. They'd only need to be able to beat us, because beating us would be the key to go overseas. It wouldn't actually make them any better overseas. They would just have beaten us, right? So that's one of the issues you have as well when you're the top dog in a region like that. So I would want to try and facilitate something where I'll be working on some things. I'm trying. We'll see what happens.
You're gonna be in the lab. You're gonna be in the kitchen.
We'll see what happens.
Who's a team that has an opposite mindset to what we just talked about?
Virtus Pro,
the Mongols.
Oh,
yeah, they don't they don't care about that stuff. Just like they just go and play and compete and try to get better, and apparently they have an abundance of talent in Mongolia. So that's awesome.
Aren't they the team too that like was they were like queuing up as 5 and like European Face It and just playing as like a 5 stack essentially?
Yeah, sometimes they play with their coach Mara and stuff. I know a couple seasons ago, me, Harry, and Hugo were playing some Face or whatever from maybe it was Dusseldorf, and I think we queued up against them or whatever and whatnots. I don't remember. Okay. Probably not. I know one season we queued up against Party Astronauts. It was like me, Maniac, and some other people, and we beat them. That was nice. That felt real good.
Sure.
Not for them.
No, not for them, but for us, yeah, for sure. I'll take a pug win. It means the world to me, you know. To them, it probably means nothing. But
it means fun.
I'll take that. I'll take that into the bank. We'll store it.
Oh, I like that.
All right, it's time to help Jason with his prep.
Yeah, okay. We could do that.
What you guys got? What you guys got for Rare Adam?
They have 2 Europeans.
Twista as the coach.
Oh, that's right. They do have Twister as the coach.
This is actually Rare Adam's actually a weird fucking team. Like Corey, the Hungarian, Fuzi,
is it?
Swedes, and then 3 Chinese players. Like what's happening here?
Yeah, well, there'll be no nuke and no Vertigo.
Are they speaking in English? Are we speaking?
They might not be speaking at all, mate.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Is like that's there's got to be a language barrier here. That's even exceptional as far as language barriers go.
Yeah, it's the new frontier. We've never quite seen one like this before. I don't know. Maybe you could ask that question.
Language barrier on top of a language barrier.
Ask Bubsky the question, Jason. You're hosting. Just throw Bubsky under the bus. So, Bubsky, what language do you think that they're communicating in?
I'm a host analyst hybrid at this event.
Jesus.
It's not just hardcore hosting. It's a little bit of both. I'm dabbling in the dark arts.
Damn, all right. Fuck me. Fair enough. I don't know.
So
I am planning on asking that question. That's actually written on my little notepad.
He's got notes. What's your setup look like, Jason? Is it a green screen scenario?
I do have a green screen behind me. It's quite nice. I had to figure out how to set up a green screen in OBS yesterday. That was a new piece of knowledge that I've now assimilated into my professional resume.
Okay.
So that's cool. I've got a blast graphic behind me. This is a room in my house that I decided I would build as like some kind of a studio to do things like this. So I have like a really nice big desk, and I have a bunch of studio lights that I haven't actually set up. I have a very nice camera that I haven't set up, and I've just kind of winged it.
Okay. Well, can we get a photo? I want to see Yanko's view, and I want to see what your studio looks like.
Yeah, I'll drop it in chat. It's it's a bit messy. The floor's not done. It's still all torn up. The drywall hasn't been wiped down since we moved in. The ceiling's exposed. It's all sorts of things.
It's a work in progress.
Yeah, it's a classy establishment.
How many do you have to do every game?
Yeah, every game for the next 5 days. 3 best of 3s a day. 15 games.
Are you getting a LAN rate for that?
Yeah.
From what I've heard, the answer is yes, Yanko.
Yeah.
That wasn't from Jason either.
Yeah.
Ooh.
I am working.
Well, at least something, listen, I guess.
It's still a full day of work, Yanko. You know what they say.
Yeah. Of course, Jason. It's hard-earned money for you, and you have a kid now, so you have to
feed the baby.
You have to you got to feed that baby. That baby is not going to feed itself.
How are you going to put it through college, Jason?
Yeah. Diapers and shit. That's expensive.
We have an education fund that could be for anything out there in the world.
If daddy doesn't drink it by then.
Oh, it's so dark. It's so dark.
A couple more years of this job, doing 3 best of 3s a day.
You never know what happens.
Hosting / analyzing, doing Elevate versus Spirit.
Sorry, baby, I invested your college fund in Dragon Lores.
Well, they'll be worth a lot of money. That's actually probably worth it.
Might be.
Yeah. I wonder if the skins will just keep going up forever. Like, obviously, now that the game has probably just bought itself another 10 years and the skin market still exists, like, I'm not into skins and stuff, but I'm. It's interesting to see how it's evolved over these years and what. I wonder what the Vox stick. Yeah, if I could get a time machine and go back and tell myself one thing, just one thing, I would say, Chad, instead of giving away all of those Vox 2014 holos that you had, just keep them. Just hold on to them. Just hold on to them. Just see what happens. Because one day, you know, they could be worth a pretty penny. What are they worth at the moment? Let me have a look. Vox Eminor 2014.
I mean, dude, no one back then in that era was thinking about like long-term value.
No way in the world, man. It's on CS Float, $47,777.
Holy shit.
47,000?
How many did you give away?
Too many. Gomez messaged me the other day and he was like, yo, have you spoken Havoc lately? And I was like, nah. And he was like, should I tell him that his inventory is probably worth this much money? And I was like, what? And he was like, yeah. He's got like, I'm not going to say the figure, but you know, it's tens of thousands of dollars in there. He's like, oh, I was like, oh shit. Yeah. Someone should probably let Luke know. Probably out there being a carpenter or whatever. He could go sell some of his items, get a pretty penny. I know he's got kids. That could go to his kids' education fund.
I might have him on Facebook, you know, I can reach out.
You send him a message, yeah.
For a fee.
Send him a trade link, Yanko.
Yeah, does it, man? You know, like I'll PayPal you like $500 if you want to send me all your items.
Maybe this is his like his crypto investment, right? He knows he's just holding on to it forever. Yeah. Just keep it in there, keep it in the fucking bank.
Fucking skins.
See how long it goes. Shit. You know what we didn't talk about? Kind of a big deal. And we've already been going for an hour and a half, and we haven't spoken about this.
Okay.
Device coaching, device in-game leading Astralis.
Yeah, shit. I need to do something.
About that. Holy fuck.
Bro,
oh
my God.
Get me Blame F back in there.
What? That was the only good part of the roster change, Jason.
Listen. I am fine. Let me bring up this Astralis news so I know exactly where we're going with this. Because I remember...
I'm fucking out of here if you say Blame should have stayed. I'm fucking out.
If you're doing that, Jason, you probably did more research than their, you know, director of performance did.
Dude, like...
that was bad messaging.
That was rough. I have no problem with Device being the in-game leader. This feels like a really weird time to pull this off. I would honestly much rather them. I mean, first of all, it's like, why are we making a roster change right before the major when we know there's going to be a ton of changes in the next month? Like, why are you so quick to pick up Bro? No offense to Bro, when you can see how this major cycle plays out, and you can see if there's players you want to pick up. My only conclusion is that they so desperately want to keep a 5 Danish lineup, but like even then, man, like this is such a crazy time to change things, because you haven't even established a world where Stoun and Yabby are like producing consistently for you. Now you have this X factor of Device becoming in-game leader. This team, these roster changes of bringing Yabby and Stoun in is like a we want to win right now kind of a statement. And then you've just changed your in-game leader. So there's going to be a ramp up period. There's going to be a learning period. You're bringing in a brand new coach. There's no guarantee that Rugga and Device are going to work well together, see eye to eye, and want to play the same kind of Counter-Strike. Like, this introduces so much chaos into the situation where I'm just like, I don't even know. It's crazy. Like, I'm actually not even joking. I even said this before when they got eliminated. I would have kept Blame F over Stoun. Like, he's been such a solid and consistent rifle for you. I now have questions about firepower. I now have questions about in-game leader. I now have questions about the future. This team, this is insane. This is such a massive risk.
What has the team achieved with Blame in the roster?
I don't know. I don't actually know.
Nothing.
I don't think it's the fault of Blame F though. I wouldn't like lay all of that at his feet.
You mean the person who's been in-game leading the majority of the time he's been in the team?
I wouldn't want to keep him as an in-game leader. Don't tell me he doesn't have value as just a regular player, because that's fucking
all right, Jason.
insanity.
Let me pose something to you right now.
Here we go.
Device during the RMR makes a tweet saying he's not having fun.
Sure.
A week after they don't qualify for the RMR, Blame is no longer part of the team, no longer the in-game leader, and Device is. What does that say to you?
Sure, I get that. But also, why are you going to a guy who's saying he's not having fun and not enjoying the game and going, hey, will you actually take control of this team that you've never done before?
Do you think that was the
Chad,
angle?
Wait, Chad. Why? He was having so much fun in Cologne, where Blame was also the in-game leader.
Hey, Yanko, things change. Just like, those things change. Things definitely change.
I think it's such a. I mean, this is the thing. This was like such a fucking trap. Like after they got eliminated from the RMR, because we even mused about it as like, where do you go? This is like a complicated situation. I just didn't see this to be the path. Also, by the way, it's funny as fuck because Blame F did it again, or I mean, Device did it again with his tweet. It saddens me that both Blame F and Ronick are not part of the journey anymore.
Oh, he's done this one again.
From Benjamin's work ethic, and he is one of the funniest guys I've played with. Best of luck in the future. Nothing about Ronick. He's part of the tweet. He's tagged. Don't say he doesn't have a great work ethic. He's not a funny guy.
What were you going to say about Ronick, though? He frustrated me during matches when he tapped me on the shoulder for a fist bump because I was focusing on playing. He didn't really contribute a lot into the timeout. What was he going to say?
No, that was I zoned off a little bit. Was that was that Device's tweet, Jason, that you were reading out just now?
It was.
Yeah, he started again.
He already did it, bro. with
he names two guys and just fucks off the second guy.
He just get so much praise for the one guy, and then the other guy is like, "Hey, thanks for everything. Have a nice life."
Let me never see you again. It's been great.
Let me present a few things here, right? Because, Jason, the way that you just framed that was you think that the team went to Device and went, hey, Device, do you want an in-game lead? Do you think that's what happened?
I have no doubt that Device probably raised his hand and said, I'll do it, or I want to do it. And actually, honest to God, on some level, I don't even think it's a bad idea for someone in Device's situation who's maybe turning the corner in a career where he's looking at like the last runway. And this is a good way to extend like, your career if you can prove and you can be a good in-game leader. And I trust his game sense and I trust his knowledge of the game to be a good in-game leader. But what a fucking risk to take. Like this is, I don't think this doesn't solve any issues.
No, it doesn't, but it gives them a whole new path to go on, right? They're in a similar scenario as like Liquid right now. They are just essentially going to be building into all the rest of the events in the next major.
But wouldn't you say, like, why are we switching paths? Like, you just
for me, it would have been
and Yabby. Isn't that saying this is the path we're on? We want to win now. This is the lineup that's going to do it. We're ready. And then
they weren't going to win with Blame as an in-game leader, right? So what I would have done is I would have waited. I would have kept the 5 for now until after the major. I would have seen if I could get Hooksy. I would have seen if I could have poached Hooksy from G2. That's what I would have done. And then I would have or Glaive. Those are the 2 in-game leaders I would have gone after the major, and I would have tried and gotten either of those. And then I would have just kept everybody besides Blame, and I would have had one of those 2 as the in-game leader in the team.
Yeah,
and I would have gone in that direction.
Wouldn't you think in the back of your mind, if you're Astralis, maybe we can get Glaive back? Like, wouldn't that be like a thought?
Well, at least try.
Why don't we check after the major? Like
here's the thing. The only way they can get Glaive back is if he isn't like fully sold, or there's some sort of a deal where they don't have to like buy him back from Ents.
Ents isn't very good. Like, let's be honest. Ents isn't very good. They're okay. Right?
Yeah, they're punching up. They're punching above their weight.
I think they got some room to grow still. I think we can see some potential step forward. I don't know how good they can be overall. I'm not going to say they're going to be like a top 5 team or championship contending team, but I think there's probably room for them to get better than they are at the current state.
But wait, we need to understand one thing, right? Astralis brought the bank out for Stone and Yabby.
Yes.
Right? And that was done for sure, expecting to qualify for the major at the very least, and get some of that back in sticker money. Now that they're not getting any of that money in, they're going to be in the hole for that whole transfer pretty much. So I think buying out people probably is out of the question for them. Like anything that's over, I don't know, 150, 200K. What?
Do you think Bro was free? I don't know one way or another.
I think it could have been or wouldn't have been very expensive because Monty also failed to make the major, so no sticker money for them. So they needed like probably an injection of cash.
Yeah.
Whatever it is. If I would guess he was probably like free or very, very cheap.
Probably not an expensive salary either.
Because otherwise you would argue, why not just have Buzz, in there? It's not like he was doing all right towards the end of that last roster. But yeah, I think ideally Chad is right. Like, you probably should have, like, what's the rush to make all the changes now? I think potentially, like, it all depends on how G2 does, right? Like, if G2 does well at the major, right, obviously,
Hooksy's not for sale, Yanka.
Yeah. but I can see how that's the thing. And not only that, you wouldn't even have to necessarily buy him out. Like, you could just trade. Like, you could give G2 blame, potentially, right? Like, if they want to do, I don't know what, or maybe they want to move on from Nexa too, and they just need that sort of whatever lurky player / I don't know. Although Flame isn't really an anchor, he plays.
It would overlap,
so that wouldn't really work out. But I don't know if actually that doesn't really work out.
If he took Hunter's role, if he took Hunter's spot, for example, that would work.
Yeah, potentially, but that would mean G2 is going like into almost a rebuild, or not a rebuild, but just a big overhaul of the roster. At that point, you're just keeping Nico, and you can't change.
Really. Yeah,
you can't really change all those players, because then you would have to play the qual. So they could only change to whatever. They're not the topic right now, but I think just waiting for sure. I don't know why it's like, would Bro be unavailable if you didn't get him now? Is he really that valuable to you that you wanted to get him? And I think maybe the only reason why they wouldn't wait to try to get any other in-game leader, in a sense, is just they know they don't have money to buy them out, and there's no way they would be free to join. So they figured, like, any of the guys that we could use, we can't get. They didn't want to go into anyone like tier 2.
That makes it even crazier in my head. Is like you throw all your eggs in this basket of Stown and Yabby getting them in, and when it doesn't work, you're like, fuck, we actually have no more fucking wiggle room. We have to drop down and go get Bro. We can't even wait to see how the major plays out.
And this whole device situation is like wild to me. I had no inkling that he wanted to be an in-game leader. He never talked about it. Like, I don't know if this is one of those spur of the moment things, is like, fuck this guy, and as a leader, or this way of playing, or whatever, like, I'm gonna take matters into my own hands. But in-game leading is fucking hard, dude. Like,
and he's someone who's had issues with stress before.
Yeah, exactly. And like emotions as well. I think it's like, and it's not necessarily the problem of it being hard on the server when the game is live. It's actually makes your life way more hard outside of the server, right? Like all the prep you need to do, all the thinking you need to do about how do you want to play, like adding new stuff. And sure, you have a coach, you have an analyst who are helping with the stuff, but ultimately you're the one who's calling it. Like you have to be comfortable with it. You have to like what's going on. And it's such a massive switch for a player. You go from thinking not only the game has evolved and you need to know what's going on the map for you to individually be able to make the correct decision, but your focus is mostly your own decision, right? Like not telling other people what they need to do, only just asking for help really, or some utility, or offering utility, and that's pretty much it, right? And it switches from that to having to think on a macro level about what you're going to do as a team, thinking about, what happened so far in the game, how can we use that, like all the stuff when it comes to game planning, scouting opponents, building your own game, self-scouting to know like what you've done. Like for someone who's new to, it's going to be such a learning curve for like, I've called this like in other games at this moment. They actually saw that I can't call this now. I have to think of something else, right? And you're just getting used to things to begin with. It feels like such an odd decision for a team, because absolutely, when they made the changes, this was win now mode, right? Like, okay, not immediately, but within 6 months. In 6 months, we need to be a contender, right? Like,
it's meant to return out there to the top tier of Counter-Strike.
They're not going to be like, I don't see them being a contender now. Not for 6 months.
It'll
probably
going to take a long time to
year.
Develop, yeah.
Sick roster change.
No, but I think that, so I didn't comment like on Twitter or anything about this, because for me, I was just sitting there percolating about it. So for this to happen, for me, it would have had to have come from Device, right? Because they're not going to go Device, hey, you're in-game leading now. He would have just gone, no, I'm not, right? Like he's had to say. Now, does that mean it's a good or a bad decision? Well, I think everybody is quite skeptical because of the player he is and how that could tarnish his legacy if it goes poorly. And we've seen so many different names over the years pick up the in-game leadership mantle who thought they could do it, who were more like star type players, and it's tainted them ever since, right? So that's why everybody's seeing the move and go, oh no, not this fucking thing again. And no, definitely not with somebody like Device. But I look at a couple of things here. If he's actually committed to this, right, he is a very smart Counter-Strike player, right? Like, I think that's very keen with somebody like Device. I think we can all see that. He's going to enjoy watching a bit of tape. That's a big thing to have. If he's committed to the role, great. As an AWPA in-game leader, there's only ever been a couple who have ever really sucked the landing of it. But he has a couple of teammates who have just been part of a system where the AWPA and in-game leader were in. Now, whether or not they're going to be as chaotic across the map and be as proactive or active, making all these different moves, that's going to have to wait and see what the style is going to be. But we know that Device was part of the greatest Counter-Strike team of all time, which was a system-based team. So if he can bring any of that and play within the system, and then he has good lieutenants, he has Yab, he has Stown, who can hopefully feed and make the right decisions within the mid-round. They get freed up with a bit of space and autonomy of the decision-making themselves. And from talking to Azza, he reckons Stair has very good communication, like in-game leader level, of like telling people how to react from the information that he's gathering across. So if he has good people giving good information, and they're able to agree on a system and approach of the game, which now they're going to build from the ground up, I would imagine, with all of their different influences. Because before, when we were watching them play with Blame, it was a lot of 4-1 stuff. It was just, it wasn't using the players and their abilities to the best. What was so good about Heroic? The way that they would play in mid-rounds, the way that they would be reactive, the way that they would always be like one step ahead or always doing something. You couldn't say the same with the Astralis that we had just seen. So I don't think, like, I'm not sold. Like, I'm not sitting here going, Device is going to be the greatest in-game leader of all time. This is going to be fucking sick. But I'm also not going, oh, this fucking sucks, right? They should have just kept playing. I think they've made the right decision to head into the next era of Astralis in terms of the getting, I don't want to say getting Device to in-game lead, but not having Blame in-game lead. I still think the better overall decision would have been waiting. But if it's finances is the problem, this seems like the best decision if Device is mega keen, but only time will tell. We could be having a conversation in 3 months where I was like, well, guess what? Everybody was right. Device packed it in. He couldn't do it. It was too stressful for him, and it's over. And to be honest, that's probably the most likely scenario, isn't it?
Well, I think too, you're right. Like the Astralis, the greatest team of all time, was like a system-based team, but that system was like built around Device and especially relied on his consistency and his ability to just hit the easy shots and hold the line and play mistake-free Counter-Strike. When you're the in-game leader and you're thinking about shifting a team on the CT side and trying to marshal the troops to get them to rotate, to get them into a setup, like, consistency is going to drop off. Like, those easy shots get a little bit more difficult because your mind is split in two different places. And he hasn't had the easiest transition to CS2 as an opper to begin with. So I think this takes a lot of potential strength out of the op role that they're going to, I don't know. There's just so many pitfalls in this move. And even if it's financial, wouldn't Bro still have been there 3 weeks from now?
Yeah, probably.
You know,
but
like,
I think Bro Bro will do all the bit trolls. He'll be a supportive element.
I think this puts a lot of pressure on Stown, I would imagine. And as you said, Stair, I didn't have that information about what he's like inside the server and how communicative he can be. But Stown was kind of a guy that Heroic was talking about towards the end of picking up his, vocality and how much he was trying to influence in mid rounds as well. So, I mean, you're just throwing more pressure at someone who's not good with pressure.
Yeah, well, but this is the thing. Like, I don't love it. I don't hate it. I think there's definitely other decisions that could have been made, but I don't have all the information. And yeah, I don't know. When is the first time we're even going to see them play? That's the next question. Let me have a look here. When is their first event? Because they're boot camping right now, apparently, from what I understand. No upcoming matches for Astralis.
It'd be
so
probably,
that would mean,
I guess, or Chengdu. Are they in Chengdu?
Chengdu. They'll be in Chengdu. So we get a taste in Chengdu, where we have teams like FaZe, Mouse, G2, Virtus Pro, Cloud9, Heroic, Complexity, Furia. Those are the big ticket names. No Mongolz there, unfortunately. Fuck. We'll get to see
fucked.
We'll get to see the new Tyloo roster. They got rid of Advent and Kaze. They're out. They're gone. They're donezo.
Peace.
I know you guys are really excited about that.
I didn't know when was that. I didn't see that.
Anytime
news.
I get to see Jam Young, I'm ready.
It's been rumored for a while. I've been reading the dirt sheets. People have been talking about the fact that they were doing this, bringing up the guys from the academy. I'll link it here. I put it in TeamSpeak. Wrong place. Discord. Fuck, I can't do it because it's on the other thing. I'll message it to on Steam. You're not on Steam because you're on the laptop. Fuck. Anyway, all you need to know is that it's Lyrics 3 ZDR, and then it lists Mosier, so he's back, Jam Young, and Mercury, and then it's got Zoking. I guess he's on the bench because Cammy's the coach. So we'll see what happens with Tyloo. Maybe it's all right.
Cool.
All right.
I think just for Astralis, like to end it, a lot of it made so much sense, like organization wise, what they were doing, and then they fuck up the coaching thing, and everything goes to shit from there. Like now it's like all over the place. Now I don't know what they're doing.
The coaching thing was bad.
Am I supposed to expect this team to be a contender? Right? Are we like just now having to give time to Device to get used to it? Like, what are the expectations now for this Astralis team? Like, and also the decision for them to go boot camp right now, straight away, I think it's like fucking not great either. Well,
I like that part. Fuck them. Get in the
I know. I would have given them some more time off, and then once the major starts, that's when I would put them in the boot camp, because that's when also everyone is looking to practice. Or not when it starts, but maybe like I would have given them a couple of extra days, because they've been boot camping for a couple of days already, Chad, right? Like,
yeah,
I think I saw or heard that somewhere. So I would.
Don't they also? I mean, I don't know how many of these guys actually live straight up in Copenhagen, but you have the Astralis office, so it's not like it's some hardcore boot camp where you have to be away from home. That could be a situation where they're just hopping into the office for 6, 7, 8 hours a day and going home.
Yeah,
I guess
exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. That's just a mostly.
Where do you think a guy like Bro lives?
Dude, I can only name one city in Denmark, so
Odense.
Oh, 2 cities. I have 2 cities in Denmark. Nice.
Surely we know a few more, right? What about like the place where is it our house? Is that where it's from?
Aarhus.
Yeah,
and Aalborg.
Aalborg, yeah, there's a few of them out there. Yeah, I'm not really up to date with the
Americans
names.
in geography. I'm not surprised.
It's worse than mine. I had Kixon on the show the other week, and I was asking him. I was like, "So Kixon, on Wikipedia, it says that you're from North Macedonia." So I referenced you as North Macedonian, and a bunch of Macedonians got really upset on Twitter. Like, what did I do wrong? And he was like, "Well," I'm like, fuck. I'm just not going to talk about anything along those lines, guys, because apparently everybody has next door neighbors in Europe that they went to war with, and you all hate each other. So fair enough, I guess. Have fun with that.
Not so much. Not as much as we hate the Americans, at least.
And there it is.
Hey, you guys hate other countries way more than you hate America.
Yeah, like maybe. Australia. Maybe.
No, everyone loves it because so many people have like an aunt in Australia or something, because people, refuged in the 90s. So people like Australia. I mean, that means a rich aunt is coming like once a year or every 2 years, brings you goodies and some money. Not for me though. I don't have any relatives.
I like goodies. All right, Yanko, do you want to get back? You want to get back to your holiday? And Jason, you want to get ready for work? It's
actually I'm loving it this way. Get away from the. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, I think Jason needs to like fucking.
Yeah, I'm gonna go shower and make a smoothie.
Okay.
You're doing it online. You're not showering. Stop lying to us.
You're gonna stay in your pajamas.
The shower is more to wake up a little bit.
We just woke you up.
We just woke up, Jason. We got you fired up for the day.
You did kind of help.
All these people are looking funny.
I have an hour. I have an hour and a half to kill. So
Let's go Cloud9 or Rare Atom or whoever wins.
Quick games are good games. 2 O's.
I think Spirit from one group and then Heroic from the other are making it.
Yeah, that sounds good. I like that. I co-sign that. All right, let's get out of here.
Amen.
All right, peace.